Okay. Today, we live in an extraordinary moment on Earth. We possess more technical expertise and knowledge than our ancestors could have ever imagined. Our telescopes let us see through time to the beginning of the universe. Our microscopes pry open to the core of organic life. Our satellites reveal global weather patterns and hidden behaviors of remote nations. But at the same time, our generation is witnessing destruction of life on dimensions never seen before in recorded history. Certainly our ancestors knew war and plague and famine, but today entire species are dying on a global scale, whole cultures and ecosystems. We have created an economy that depends on ever-increasing consumption of resources. We have somehow separated ourselves from the scientific warnings that describe what are at stake when we burn rainforests and fossil fuels and dump toxic wastes into our air and soil and sea, and use chemicals that devour our planet's protective ozone shield. Paul Hawkins describes it well as, we are stealing from the future, selling it to the present, and calling it gross domestic product. This afternoon, I wanted to start a dialogue about healing our world. As humans, we are incredibly talented, and each of us have unique gifts. Humans have survived so many trials and evolved through so many adventures in our planetary journey. And there's so much promise still to unfold, if we choose. As the word spoken through Moses, I have set before you life and death, therefore choose life. We can choose life. We can think and act in a way to ensure a livable world, and it's crucial that we know this. We can meet our needs without having to destroy our life support system, both regionally and globally, in terms of the resources that we consume and the waste that we produce. If we are to heal our world, we must first be willing to heal ourselves. So often, we walk through life shielded. We protect ourselves from all the miseries and hurt that might come our way. But I'm asking you to walk through life like this. And yes, that means catching all the unexpected miseries and hurt that might come our way. But it also means that when beautiful, amazing things just fall from the sky, we're ready to catch them. I know my request might be difficult to apply, because living with our hands open means that we need to embrace excruciating vulnerability. Some of you may understand that tenderness and vulnerability are important, and you're able to surrender and walk right into it. I was not one of those people. I needed to control, I needed to stay strong, I needed to be okay. And maybe some of you can relate to that. For me, that all changed 4 years ago. I'm going to share with you a very personal experience that I've never spoken openly about to explain how vulnerability is fundamental. 4 years ago, my worst fear became a reality. I was raped. And just as we eat when depressed, drink to numb the pain, work to work, or watch too much TV, anything to avoid, numb, or bypass pain, I told no one what had happened to me. 1 year later, I was living in South Africa, and I was studying there as a university exchange student. I was in a relationship, in love, with who I know now to be my guardian angel. And as we grew closer and shared more with one another, he knew something inside me was not right. As much as I tried to convince him that I was okay, he kept at me, prying and pushing for the truth. I was trying to convince him so strongly of something that I couldn't even convince myself of. I was holding on so tightly to that need for control. For the first time in 12 months, I admitted to myself what had happened to me, and I told him I had been raped. As soon as I shared those 3 words, life around me collapsed. I was flooded with this suppressed pain and so much fear and anxiety. It was absolutely unbearable. That was the beginning of a breakdown, but it was also the start of a spiritual awakening that has forever changed my life. I'm sharing my story with you today to let you know that you're not alone in your struggle with pain. Each of us in this room and around the world are vastly interconnected. We each have burdens to carry, and we're challenged with defeat and suffering, illness and loss, and fear and shame. Have us thinking that I'm not good enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not smart enough, beautiful enough, promoted enough. The first step to healing is having the courage to allow yourself to be seen, really seen. To tell your story with your whole heart. To have the courage to be imperfect. I grew up with this naive mindset that if I made the right choices and surrounded myself with the right people, I would be protected. After a long time of asking why and how this could have happened to me, I understand that I'm going to endure more pain in my life. Like Kim told us 2 weeks ago, we can't change things, we can only change ourselves. The bad will happen, but we can choose to change our perception and learn from the opportunity. What keeps me protected, and I know this now, are just the right people that are placed in my life to help, if I'm willing to ask. Growing up, I'd never been one to really express my pain. I didn't want to burden others with, with my problems, and I happened to develop this bad habit of just dealing with it, which meant that I was concealing and suppressing any of my worries or anxieties. But as much as I would try to box them up and put them away, those pains don't go away. When I finally began dealing with my assault, I admit the anxiety weighted me down where everything seemed like a struggle. I was the lowest I've ever been. I cried more that year than I had in my entire life combined. I was paralyzed with fear. But at that point, I was no longer in control. I was then screaming for help. And it took me hitting that bottom before I realized that I'm completely dependent on others. I need you just as much as you need me. If we let go of what we think we should be and just be who we are, we open ourselves to connection. We often pretend that we don't have any effect on others. We pretend that we don't have a huge impact on those around us. What we do in our personal lives and business, it's all connected. We're all connected. It's those connections that gives us purpose and meaning in our lives. It's how we've been biologically and neurologically wired. While living in South Africa, I was in a country with one of the world's highest rape rates. I was exposed to extreme poverty, to crime, to AIDS, and hardship that I could have never imagined having grown up in Canada. Having my greatest fear become a reality was the hardest thing I've ever experienced. But it could have been so much worse. And I was continuously reminded of that because of the area of the world that I was living in. My struggle was incomparable to the ordinary people that I met that were confronting despair and incalculable odds in order to restore some resemblance of grace and justice and beauty to this world. I was taught gratitude. Gratitude, which is a key component to healing. So in those moments of terror when we're questioning, can I really be this fierce? Can I love this much? Can I really be so passionate? Instead of catastrophizing what might happen, take a step back and say, I'm just so grateful. My recovery, if we can call it that, took almost a year. And speaking of the experience, it's still very emotional for me, but not because of the suffering I went through, but the power of healing that was released when I finally addressed that pain. The love I was given was and is overwhelming. It was an awakening that provided new insight, and that experience has been one of the largest blessings in my life. It has helped me redefine wealth and my worth by reorganizing our perceptions. We are liberated from the illusions of what we need to own and what our place is in the order of things, to an understanding of our mutual belonging in this living body we call Earth. We are wired for struggle, but never forget that you are worthy of love and belonging. Let yourselves be seen, deeply, vulnerably seen. Our society attempts to numb vulnerability, and as a result, we see this epidemic of debt, obesity, addiction, and over-medication. We can't selectively numb emotions. When we numb those hard feelings, we numb everything. We numb joy, we numb gratitude, we numb happiness. I can't escape vulnerability. I've learned to embrace it. To feel this vulnerable means that I'm alive. What makes me vulnerable is what makes us beautiful. It is necessary. It's that willingness to say, I love you first, to breathe through waiting for that call from the doctor, to do something when there are no guarantees. Vulnerability can be terrifying to our egos. But vulnerability is also the birthplace of joy, creativity, belonging, and so much love. If we choose life, if we are to heal our world, be courageous and walk with your hands open, ready to catch those beautiful, amazing things that fall from the sky. Be compassionate, knowing that you must first be kind to yourself and then to others, and believe that you are enough. The greatest thing that we have to offer is our gifts. And if you can change yourself, then we can change the world.